Awesome, man. Um,
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence, we are in the third episode of Derailed, courtesy of Arcaicskidz. This beautiful May 10th. We have back with us the one and only Danny Classic. What's up, Danny?
it's nice of you to give it an outsized introduction. um, it's good. It's back onto Liberty Twitter, onto Twitter in general. And it's funny because I'd even been new to Twitter way less than a year. I'd been on Twitter for like 4 months, maybe. Essentially as a result of my deeper understanding through conversations and kind of the podcast that I do with a buddy of mine, has driven me from a conservative perspective, which I still consider myself a conservative. But what I mean by that is probably a little different than what it's conventionally discussed as. But that process has driven me. Those conversations have driven me further from a conventional conservative perspective, or probably I'm not a libertarian. I don't consider myself a libertarian, but I'm closer and more sympathetic to kind of the ANCAP space, and I still consider myself a conservative in the Edmund Burke sense. But having said
right,
that was kind of my so that's where I was on Twitter, and I kind of had that's where I was. But I think how we started having conversations was in that space, obviously, and you were nice enough to notice. I guess you were nice enough to notice once my nuking. Once I was able to claw back from the nuking, kind of recognizing me and reaching back out to me and saying, "Hey, let's talk about this weirdness, man." And I don't even really know. I'm still teasing out what it means. And again, this is really outsized, like your nice words for me. It's nice. It's outside. I'm going to speak to it from an outside perspective because I'm fucking nobody, and it doesn't really mean anything to me or anyone else, frankly, that I got bombed off Twitter. But the fact that institution does that, and the rules, how it's almost worse that it doesn't matter that it was me, right? In the sense that if at least from an intellectual perspective, if you have ideological convictions that would preclude you from allowing certain people to participate, like, hey, I don't like your politics, I don't like your ideology, I don't want you to participate in this space. There's at least some respect is too strong of a word, but understanding for that as a position. But when it's like, I'm fucking nobody, like this, why did you just firebomb me and you didn't firebomb me for like my fucking spicy taste, which I have. You seem to kind of firebomb me because of the community that I participate in, and you used these words, the 4-letter words, to execute my like removal, and that's really strange. I just don't really know what to make of it.
You made the one major error, which was that you crossed an aisle you're not supposed to cross and talk to other people.
Yeah, I think you're probably okay. Thought of it that way. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, they don't. The whole unity thing, the unifying situation that can happen, that shit's not acceptable. Like,
yeah.
They'll get pissed and they'll get rid of you in a heartbeat if you try some nonsense like that. So, people always ask, well, why don't they reach across the aisle? Why don't people from with different, you and I are probably, I mean, we're a lot closer than say me and AOC would be, but sure, we are leaps and bounds away from how we see government function.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But you and I had a brief conversation. I brought over this Chauvin situation.
Yeah.
And then you came on the show and we had a conversation, and like, fuck, dude, 45 minutes later, it was like, bloop, you're
yes,
done.
Dude. Yes, correct. That's right. Yeah. And I think another piece of it, and you tell me, because you know more about this, and you have a bigger reach than I do. Something that I do, which I don't notice, and you can tell me I'm wrong, definitely. I see, even again in kind of Liberty Twitter and ANCAP Twitter in our sphere, we have conversations among ourselves that are interesting and complex and deep, about like other people, frankly, and whether it's the state or whether it's, culture or whatever. I don't see, and again, you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't see a lot of like acts in those. So like if we're talking about like Joe Biden, we type out like Joe Biden and we don't at Joe Biden. Or like if we're talking about AOC, or if we're talking about Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney or any of the neocon, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like we don't, or it doesn't seem that there's a lot of like direct interaction, like going at them directly. But I do that because it's like, I think it's funnier to do that. Like why, again, like, I don't know if this is fucking, autism or whatever, but it's like, if I'm like saying you're an institution of the state, I should say it to you and around you like all the time. Like I shouldn't like just talk about it with you or just talk about it with our circle. I have to bring that point, isn't it? Like, isn't that the point of this platform and in this environment? And the obvious response to that from the institution is no.
Yeah,
like,
no, you're right in the regard that a lot of times when we're speaking about someone, we don't tag them in it. We're just talking about whatever nonsense shit they came up with. But I will very often tag the president or whoever,
sure,
because I want to make sure that they understand that I know you fucking idiots and what you're up to. Like,
right.
But yeah, no, you're not like, again, I reiterate, I think a lot of the problem you ran into, like, look, even Twitter knows, like, I'm not, I mean, if you want to censor me, whatever, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? But the thing is that they know that my shit is my shit, and it doesn't make any difference. Like, I'm not actively engaged in trying to reach across the aisle to people. I'm gonna put out my content. That's what it's gonna be, and it's gonna be whatever it is. I think their concern with someone like yourself, who, I mean, I think a lot of people would consider like a Republican.
Yeah, I mean, I don't consider. I know what you're saying. I don't consider. I'm not a Republican, but
right. I understand, but I'm saying a lot of people would consider that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And so when the quote unquote Republican is going to reach out and have a conversation with the anarchist, libertarian minded folks or whatever about shit we do agree on, maybe we don't agree on everything, but there's a lot we can, they're going to go, well, we're going to make it more than clear to everyone with this particular person's mindset of don't reach out. And we're going to do that by nuking this motherfucker so that all the others that are more of your mindset, not my mindset, go, oh shit, let's don't talk to Archaic. Let's don't talk to Reed. Let's don't talk to these people, because we're going to lose our ability to speak in what is now the town square. Yeah,
so it's interesting. I actually hadn't thought of that as deeply. And you bring up Reed, which is interesting, because he's another good example, or like a Magnus or some of those types who like they and I've had some like DMs with Reed. And it's good. I think we have an like he's particularly atheist where I am not, and and particularly he has a lot of views which I disagree with, but I also like really play with. Like I'm more than happy to like make fun of like Christianity and religion. Like it's funny. I have a thick skin. I think it's like funny to do that. Like I don't get it. Like I'm as long as it's funny, and even if it's not at least funny, it's a articulated opinion, it's like fine. So that's okay with me. And it's interesting when you mention kind of a perspective like mine connecting with a perspective like Reed's, where it's like our cores do absolutely align. certainly our cores are definitely, again, the state in all its iterations is, monopoly on force, and coercion is not, benevolence. Period.
Right.
I am high, and this is why I consider myself kind of a Burkean Hegelian conservative, right? Is because I'm actually fairly high on cultural authoritarianism. Essentially, I have a lot of high level rules for people, but they can't be laws at the same time, and almost inherently if they are rules that are virtuous, that would lead to a better functioning and actualized individual and society, once you make them a law, you ruin their ability to be effective. So it's like we agree on that almost unilaterally.
Right.
Want a law? Like, no. But to me, it's like, do I think you should do I don't take the stance conceptually of like, the most freedom is the most good, but I do take the stance that any state institution limiting your freedom does the most bad. So when we have conversations that can find unity, you're right, that's dangerous. That's
Right,
real,
right.
real dangerous.
I recently just saw this situation that just took place where Justin Amash, who is teaching a class at some university, I don't remember which one, he had he tweeted out something along the lines of thanking AOC for coming on and speaking to the class, right? And there are a lot of libertarians that are irritated by that. I mean, I suppose in a way, I do get it. To a point, but also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but the week before you had Michael Malice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a weird situation because it's like, do we really want to have some unity situation where we don't agree on everything, obviously, or do we want a situation where it's like, well, we want unity, but not with them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a weird situation for me because I think AOC is like legit evil.
I know you picked the best example for this dilemma.
Yeah. It's a very weird situation as to where is there a line? Where is that line? Where do we draw that line?
So I do a podcast with a life partner of mine who, I mean, he is like an anarchist 100%. And it's interesting the way we kind of feed off one another. And, I my instincts kind of rub off on him, and his instincts have rubbed off on me.
Right.
He has a compelling opinion argument that is similar to, kind of like the dirtbag left, instinct, which is like, you have to kind of go John Brown at all times. And, you have to, there's like an enemy, there's an enemy class and a us class. And the reason they're an enemy class is because they perceive us as their enemy. So from a game theory perspective, we cannot survive. It doesn't matter. Our altruism and our taking the higher ground doesn't matter because they hate us so much. And it's like, and this is kind of where I think about like AOC, and on the other side of me, I think AOC is like almost like a fucking op, like there's a piece of me that thinks that. But there's also like, these and really how I describe it is like these postmodern, and I think it's Malice who says this, but it's like these kind of postmodernist institutions, like they'll settle for your compliance, but they do want you dead. Like they don't
for sure. And that is Michael Malice for sure. So like we got to shout it out. He's got this thing. He's like 100% on that. They will settle for compliance, but they really want you dead.
Yeah. So it's hard to, when all my instincts tell me to communicate to people and ultimately that becomes from that actually comes from a Christian perspective of mine, but it also comes from a it comes from an maybe I'm rationalizing, but it comes from like a libertarian individualism perspective of mine, which is like people are people, you know, and when we take people out of their in-group, out-group contexts, like we can communicate with them. So all my instincts tell me to do that, but then I have like this, you know, devil on my shoulder, you know, malice ANCAP thing on my shoulder where it's like, no, man, like Chuck Schumer fucking hates you. Like,
yeah, Chuck Schumer wants you dead, bro.
Yeah, like you cannot, there is no unity. So that's a hard thing for me as kind of like just getting off the normie boat. Like that's like a hard thing for me to reconcile.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that people run into is that we all struggle with that one question: is the enemy of my enemy my friend or my enemy? Well, they're both. They can be both. We have to figure out where that line is. And so, you know, you take like Justin Amash having AOC on, right? And I mean, I'm going to give her credit in this. She caught a lot of hell from it, just as he did. She caught it from her base. He caught it from his. Whatever. The point being is they both caught a lot of hell, and they were like, "This woman is a sick, you know, psychopath, whatever, blah blah blah." All of these things are technically true. But she was like, look, but we do agree on ICE. We do agree on the drug war. We do agree on these things. And in my head, I'm going, okay, is the enemy of my enemy my friend or my enemy, right? Yeah. In that situation. And, you know, you and I have a different situation because I don't see you as the enemy of my enemy or my enemy at all.
Yeah,
but I do see AOC as my enemy to freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not debatable. I mean, we're talking about someone who's arguably the biggest. I'm probably forgetting someone, but who's probably the biggest cheerleader for, you know, creating a federalized police roundup of people, you know, who participated in January 6th. It's like,
no, you're not wrong. She's
it's like
the number one. To this day, she's the number one cheerleader. I literally just did a show with Stacy for Truth yesterday on her channel. I don't know when or even if she'll release it, but that where we discussed, she showed me some videos of this nut job like 2 days ago on Instagram talking about how, well, I'll make sure it never happens again. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, you're a bartender from nowhere. You can't stop dick. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, right. Yeah. Again, this is where, I mean, my, like, I don't even know if it's like just, I think it's fun, but I don't know how much truth we're uncovering because it's fun, but it's like, okay, like, AOC is just a CIA honeypot, right?
Yeah. Like, yeah, for sure.
Like, definitely. Like no one speaks like this, acts like this, thinks like this. They just don't. Like they don't. You know, we talk about it.
I mean, apparently she's getting a bunch of people to talk like that, act like that, speak like that, because she's got fucking millions of people that follow her. Like now, okay, granted, she does have people that follow her that just follow her to see what nonsense comes out of her shit, right?
Yeah.
Like for instance, I follow her because I want to see what crazy shit she says. Sure. You know what I mean? And then make fun of her. But you know, a lot of people, like, she's got a whole army. This woman runs a cult. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. No. Oh no. I certainly. I.
Just like Trump ran a cult too.
Yeah. Oh sure. Absolutely. I'm very absolutely. I mean, you know, kind of. Strong men don't have to be men, right? Obviously. I mean, this is what totalitarianism is and does from a cult of personality perspective. And to me, it's what, and I get hung up on this, but you know, it's what postmodernism does because what postmodernism does is manipulate language to create reality. It doesn't. Yes. It's not the classical kind of definition of language, which is how do we find a shared way to communicate like an objective reality? Like, how do we describe that this rock is a rock? Like, that's what it's for. But what postmodernism does...
I've got a good way, but most people wouldn't like it. It would violate the nap. Let's put it that way.
like, but what,
this is a rock, crack. It hurts a lot.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, correct. It will crush you if you.
Yes.
It's kind of, there's an example I'll mention too in like in play, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm fine with just saying that. So we
oh, dude, I'm sorry,
dude, and this is where we're moving, which is interesting. But
where are you moving? You don't. Well, you could tell me after.
Yeah. But there's a big story which should be one of the biggest stories in the country. You can look it up. So, and all this is like I'm making any of this up. So, so a blogger around here, he's literally outside of like, even you talk about kind of reaching across the aisles from a conservative perspective, like Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, like these are like the best journalists out there going. Julian Assange.
They're real lefty. But
yeah,
they
and
actually do a damn good job.
And they do an excellent, exactly. So the next one is this guy called Aidan Kearney. He wrote he's very local, which I like. It's like he's not every story has to be a federal story, right? Or like a national.
Right.
It's very local. And his beat, has been. So there's a woman, and again, it's not like straight. There's this woman called Monica Cannon Grant, who is sort of like a BLM leader here, postmodernist, not in like the shared unity BLM perspective, where it's like, yes, we should defund police, like, and let's actually talk about what that means. We should defederalize police. We should demilitarize police. What does that mean? But this person is BLM, like critical race theory. White people do not have enough melanin to be intelligent. Like this is a highly divisive, evil person. Who believes in top-down statist Marxism as a methodology to produce race-based policy initiatives. And the reason I bring it up in this context of postmodernism in AOC is a teenage girl, a black gay teenage girl, committed suicide last month, and it's a horrible and a horrific, and it's a truly, and again, I'm a parent, you're a parent, like a truly tragic story. But this person, this Monica Cannon Grant woman, has actually literally created the narrative that she was lynched. And she has taken that basically out of whole cloth and said there was this young woman girl who was deeply troubled enough to kill herself. She essentially broke up with her white girlfriend at the time, which we can talk about, whatever. And it was a teenage drama, like, insults were hurled back, and a typical kind of normal thing. It's not normal because it results in the suicide, but, suicide, depression, drug use, there was some opioid abuse,
what else causes that shit? Locking people in their fucking house and not letting them see their loved one.
It's a massive part of it. And I know I'm going long on the story, but
it's fine. Don't worry about it, man.
What's so interesting and tragic all at once is she's literally this woman and this BLM faction has literally kind of descended on this town, this suburb, and said, and they've named 5 white teenagers who knew this girl, and created out, and I can't emphasize and stress this enough, created a narrative that she was lynched. Now the girl hung herself in the woods, and created and said these white people lynched this girl. Created a BLM rally. The town had to board up. School had to close. The DA has to speak in woke terms, saying well, we have to make sure that we have a thorough investigation. We have to make sure that there's no role for white supremacy. And I'm like, this is postmodernism, and how I bullet back to AOC. This is postmodernism and woke ideology infiltrating the way we understand reality. And it's and how I tie it back to the conversation we're having is I can't compromise with these people. I cannot. They are my enemy. They are the enemy class. Monica Grant is one of the worst people alive. And it's I can't for the sake of taking the intellectual high road, even like, and I know I'm parroting kind of like the, you know, I think it was bigger in like 2018, 2019. Like, you know, I'm not going to show up to like Ben Shapiro's, you know, discussion at Michigan State because it's hate speech. It's like, and I know I sound like that in reverse, but it's like, no, this is actual real, dyed in the wool, real like hate speech. Like this is like an evil. And do I want her to like to go to jail? Like, no. But like, do I think she should be like removed from polite society? Like, and I don't mean violently, but I mean like marginalized to the point where she does not have any ability to function in society? Like, yes, this person is leveraging the tragedy of a Black gay child to push critical race theory. And it's like, that's the most evil.
This person is a grifter, and it's all about money. I promise you 100%.
Oh, racism industrial complex, certainly.
It's just a grift game. It's a, how can I get money from these people? How can I monetize people's guilt? Now I'm going to add this. If you're a white person in America, I don't care if you're straight, gay, you know, whatever, transitioning, I don't care. You have nothing to feel guilty about.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so if in any way you're feeling some kind of a guilt, go get some breadcrumbs, go down to a local pond, wherever you are, feed the fish, feed the ducks, and tell these motherfuckers to shove it where the sun don't shine, because fuck that. You didn't do shit. You don't need to feel guilty about shit. That's fucking ridiculous. And yeah, don't play their game like that. I'm gonna add that 100%. Just fuck them. You know what I mean? And here's the other thing. When people start calling you out, saying, "Oh, you're racist, you're sexist, you're homophobic, you're whatever fucking name they come up with," here's something that I like to do. First of all, just go, "Well, how does that change my point?"
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's
just take the argument away from them. Yeah, I mean, because if you try to argue, if you try to say, "Well, I have Black friends and I have brown friends and I have gay friends,"
yeah, you can't.
In their head, all you're doing is like proving that you are these things because, oh, well, I only have these people in my life to prove I'm not this thing. Yeah. Don't do that. Just fucking don't do that. Like when people on social media come at me and they're like, "Well, you're just a sexist, you're just a homophobe, you're just this, that, whatever nonsense they come up with." The simplest thing I found to do is go, "Well, how does that change my point?" Yeah. Because then they're just baffled. They're like, "Oh fuck, I don't know what to do now." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and you actually shouldn't. Adults shouldn't participate in conversations that do not have outcomes, right? And
you're not getting an outcome from that.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you know, because it ceases to be a conversation at that point, and it becomes, you know, either a lecture or a command, right? Yes. So like we're not even talking. if you're, you know, so you're right. I mean, this is and you know, if you want to, you know, go from, you know, from a debate perspective, which I don't think it really bothers me that a large enough portion of our discourse is almost always framed as a debate. It's like, that's, I don't know, it's kind of exhausting. Like, you know, I don't like need to like debate every time I have a conversation with someone. But if I'm forced to participate in a conversation, quote unquote, that exists within those parameters, I'm certainly not going to cede the linguistic territory at the front end and honor someone who's simply making an ad hominem assertion on me, because there's nowhere to go from there. It's like, all right,
for sure.
Like, if I'm racist and you're delusional, it's like, where, okay, that like right? You know, like okay.
Yeah, it's weird. Like how the fuck do you deal with that? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't. It's very strange, and it's why. And you know, again, to kind of circle back to why you had me on, the binary type of conversations seem to be what drive, and this can be as kind of broad and deep as we want it to be. It's like from a shallow perspective, it's like, well, binary instincts and conversation drives clicks and engagement and can sell ad space and best defines the metadata that can be pushed to people that sells shit. It's like that's one of the way. That's one pretty good explanation. That's probably a good portion of it. The other is like, okay, you know, Jack and, you know, the Silicon Valley Bilderbergs like only can only like pathologize their instincts to keep themselves as a ruling class if we have binary conversations. So it's like it's both. Like it's a practical perspective and it's an ideological perspective, and neither of those things like help us.
For sure, man. For sure. One of the things, and to the point there is that I don't know. I'm sure you know. I think fucking everyone knows at this point. Like Elon Musk was on Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah, sure.
This Saturday. I did not watch it. I may be one of the only Americans that didn't. Whatever, bite me. I don't care. Yeah. I saw a couple of clips, and people are like, "Well, it wasn't funny," and I'm like, "Actually, the clips I saw were funny. Not the skit, but the fact that Elon Musk was doing it made the joke. Like that was the joke. You know." Having him dressed up as Wario was the joke.
Yeah. Right.
The rest of it, shit. That said, I don't know if you do you follow Joe Rogan? Do you watch his pod or like listen to?
Yeah, so it's like me. I'll keep this as short as I can. I started in the kind of Rogan sphere, I guess. Like, and I like Rogan. I think he's kind of I understand the fact that from a marketing distribution perspective, he kind of has to be a chameleon with every guest that he has on. Like when he has, you know, Dave Smith on, he's going to make libertarian arguments. But when he has Bernie Sanders on, he's going to make, you know, woke populist arguments.
I don't actually think that's what he's doing. I think that like.
Oh, you don't think so? Okay.
No, I think that he legit. I don't think he really knows like what.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they make a good point to him, and he's like, okay, fuck, that makes sense to me. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think that he goes into it going, okay, well, I'm going to agree with Bernie or I'm going to agree with Dave. I think he literally goes into it and they make an argument. And I honestly believe like he's open-minded enough that he goes, oh, fuck. Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I'll amend it. So it's a good point you make. I'll amend my, I'll say it this way. I like Rogan. It's very guest dependent for me. Like if it's a guest I want to listen to, I'll listen to it. If it's not, I won't.
Yeah. Well, that's me too.
Yeah. And I'll say that I'll amend my statement by saying he's not doing it intentionally. Like he doesn't do enough like bedrock principle argue. I wish he was a little less open-minded. You know, I wish he had a little bit more of a, I wish he had a little bit more of a perspective. You know what I mean? Like I'm like you and I mean, I didn't do a very good example of it, but it's like, if you say something that I disagree with, like, I'm going to tell you that, and I'm going to
like that I should be able to own a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. Right. I don't disagree with that, but
well, shit. Okay.
I'll be like, so the biggest thing in my space where I'm a contrarian is like I'm religious, and I don't think there's such a thing as an atheist person from a biological developmental metaphysical perspective.
Everyone's an atheist until they're in a foxhole.
Yeah, and they just I don't. It's because we have long childhood.
We may be on a weird situation. I'm not an atheist. You know that, right?
I do, but I say it in like the wide perspective.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay.
So I like catch a lot of it's not even shit because like I don't mind it. The point is, I'm getting you off track with Rogan. Why'd you bring up Rogan?
So Elon Musk was on Saturday Night Live. Well, Friday's show, Joe Rogan, 3-hour long show with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I haven't listened to it, but I
haven't listened to the full thing, but I did see some excerpts of it, and it was essentially they were talking about the fact Elon was going on SNL, and I guess some of the cast was like, we don't want to be on with this guy, blah, 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 whatever, right? And both of them essentially, and these are, I'm like, let's be honest, two of the biggest names in stand-up comedy of our generation for sure, right?
Chappelle is definitely the biggest.
Dave Chappelle is the biggest comedian since fucking, I mean, I don't even know.
Like Carlin or someone, you know.
Probably Carlin. George Carlin would be the only one that was maybe bigger, you know, or at least on scale at the same level.
Yeah.
But both of them were like, well, you can never be woken up. They were basically calling out SNL before it happened.
Yeah. Well,
and then it did happen, and then all the shit over the last 2 days has been like, well, he didn't apologize for his anti-bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, first of all, on Monday, he's the richest guy. Tuesday, he's the second richest guy. Thursday, he's the richest guy in the world again. I wouldn't apologize for shit.
Well,
I would do whatever the fuck I wanted, and when people got mad, I'd be like, blow me.
The thing that's interesting about that is you bring up a good point that Rogan and Chappelle bring up, which is when you're so ideological and binary, and right now, from my perspective, the most binary types, the most on-off switch thinking comes from the woke. Now, again, we're going to get a lot of kind of liberty folks that say, hey, there's plenty of Republicans and conservatives who are binary and on-off switch as well. And I agree with you. You're correct. But right now, the bigger focused threat, quote unquote, is from the woke. I don't think that's arguable. To me.
No, that's not arguable. That is a fact.
Right. So when you're pathologized like that, you mentioned so Jordan Peterson had a conversation, I think, with Helen Lewis of the BBC, where there was a pretty good exchange where he mentioned, or it came up where it was like, well, what do I think about, well, what do you think I think about, X, Y, and Z? And he was like, you think the patriarchy is a, top-down phenomena where men oppress women. You think that, there are not two genders. You think that, basically X, Y, and Z. And the point that he was making ultimately is when you pathologize your behavior enough, it's really actually like you're not there.
Yeah.
You're just a series of platitudes. And when you bring up that Rogan and Chappelle are like, we already know that you can't be woke enough before it happened. Like, we already know that Elon Musk is part of the outgroup in our binary assessment of humanity. It's like, that's, I give them credit for saying it, but it's like, for folks like you and I, it's like, that's the easiest prediction there is. There's like,
before it ever happened, you're like, okay, this shit's gonna go off the rails.
Yeah, like it's like you're not a person. Like, I don't know what I don't know what Kate McKinnon's politics are, but I do know that, like, SNL cast member, celebrity comedian Kate McKinnon only has ideology in platitudes and corporate media, like groupthink. Like, I know everything I need to know about her, and that's
what's crazy too is that you get her alone or one of these people alone, they might not actually feel that way, but they're perfectly okay just like spreading that nonsense to everyone else, which is real fucking irritating to me. Why don't we have more Ryan Dawsons, right? or I'm sorry, Ryan Longs of the world, who, you know, like he's a pretty lefty guy. He's from Canada, you know what I mean? But man, does he make some damn funny shit, like super funny skits. He understands the humor of the nonsense, and he's able to monetize that. Just you know, craziness.
I think Jimmy Dore is like that too. You know,
Jimmy Dore is very good at it. Jimmy Dore, I would say, is I think he's a little less good because Jimmy Dore is not open for conversation.
Fair enough.
He's what he believes is what he believes. You know, it's you can't teach a old dog new trick kind of argument.
Fair enough.
In my opinion. But that said, I also respect the shit out of Jimmy Dore because Jimmy Dore does believe what Jimmy Dore believes, and he has no problem saying it.
Yeah.
No matter who he's saying it to, so he's constantly calling out people like AOC and these, as he calls them, fake progressives.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Because just be fucking honest, man. Like, it's not that hard. Just be honest. Who you are, what you're about. Like, it's not that fucking hard. You cowards.
And I'll always go back to Peterson because I blow him all the time. But it's like
he simps for Peterson.
What's that?
He simps for Peterson.
I do big time, dude. I have Canadian Professor Dick tattooed. But it's crazy. I really, it's like we can do. We'll do another whole episode. But the Kathy
Newman.
We'll
have to do an episode on Just Peterson and his influence in the world.
I think we could, and I honestly, I think it, like, even like no bullshit, like I think it's important, and it clearly and obviously is important enough, you know, to you know.
Yeah, I mean, he changed the game for sure.
So the point that you know, in the context of what we were talking about, that Kathy Newman interview about like you said, like, just, you know, kind of say what you're thinking, and it's okay. It's also like okay if you stumble through it a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfectly well formed. And you know, the Peterson thing, and I'll butcher the quote, and I kind of forget the exact exchange, but it's, you know, sort of the famous exchange. And it's well, I think it's something along the lines Kathy Newman posited about a trans person who I don't, you know, we can talk about trans people, and I have no whatever.
No, I don't want to.
Me either. Was like, you know, why does your ability for free speech supersede, you know, my ability, you know, a trans person's ability to be comfortable? Basically, why is your free speech more important than someone being comfortable? And Peterson's retort is like, well, in order to speak, you have to, in order to think, you have to be able to speak. Like, right. you can't. You actually, the way that humans communicate and the way that we tease out our identity is by throwing out into the environment what we think. Mm-hmm. And the way we express that is through our speech. And if we can't think and speak freely for fear of people being comfortable or uncomfortable, you actually can't have an identity. You can't be a person if you can't throw your ideas out there. So to your point, where it's like you get pissed off at like mealy-mouthed people who can't say what they mean, or they're so afraid to say anything. It's like my first instinct is like real, actual sympathy. It's like you're not even again. I was kind of making a joke of it, but I'm also not. It's like you're not a person if you can't kind of fumble through what you think.
Yeah, I will. I've done this before, and I'll do it again. I'm gonna push back on Dr. Peterson in this regard. When he says, you know, when people like that interview specifically, right, where she said, "Well, what does your right to speech have? Why is that more important than their right to be comfortable?" And granted, Dr. Peterson is obviously a brilliant man who handled that particular circumstance or that question in a very decent way. My argument is very simple. Positive rights are fucking retarded. All rights are negative, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They're on
Yeah.
you to protect those. Positive rights are like given to you by what? Some fucking nonsense, democratic government shit nonsense, right? Doesn't make any sense because any kind of a positive right can just be stripped from you in a heartbeat.
It can just be taken away. Yeah.
Yes, and a negative right is something that's 100% on you to protect. It's 100% yours alone that you have to bottle that thing and protect that thing with everything that you've got. Unfortunately, America doesn't do that because they're a bunch of fuck cowards. But my point being is that I look at it from a perspective of negative and positive rights. So when I see things like, oh, well, you have a right to healthcare, I'm like, no, you don't, you fucking idiot. Yeah, that takes from others for you. That's ridiculous. All right. Let's play your game. Anyone that says that, I want to drop your stupid ass in the middle of the forest.
Yeah.
You know, here's a compass. Fuck off.
Yeah. Where's your well? I mean, the simpler explanation is so doctors are slaves. Mm-hmm. I'm in healthcare and I'm in the healthcare space, and nobody has more disdain for institutionalized pharma, institutionalized medicine, and institutionalized insurance than me. Like, we can do a whole episode on that too. I said that at the end of the day, healthcare as a right, what you're saying is slavery. What you're saying is you have to be conscripted to take care of me, and not even from an indemnification perspective of like loss of life. I need the help of my community to ensure that that if I suffer some grievous injury or disease, that I can be kind of fixed and brought back, to good health. But healthcare, as we've conceptualized it, particularly as a right, is I can be fat, smoke, bungee jump, and
do nothing but Twinkies.
And do whatever I want, and you have to subsidize my shitty self-identity and my shitty. You have to subsidize. I have to conscript a slave to ensure that I don't die, even if I do everything in my power to kill myself. And it's right. That's the idea of socialized medicine. Is like what are we talking about?
I don't even understand. I can't get behind any of that because it's like, okay, like, I mean, I think the last year is more than proven why it would never fucking work. Like, why it would be an absolute disaster here. We know for an absolute fact the majority of the deaths of the COVID were based primarily on comorbidities, and the number one that they had was obesity, right?
Yeah,
being overweight. Number two was actually a lack of vitamin D.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have sufficient vitamin D, magnesium, if you just move appropriately, you will not die.
Right. And so I look at that and I go, okay, so we know these two things correlate with death from this particular virus, right? So what does the U.S. government do? Do they tell you to take vitamin D? Do they tell you to get as much vitamin D as possible? No, that is obviously not anywhere in their charter. Do they tell you to go the fuck outside, go to the gym, go for a walk? No. What do? They lock your shit in the house with no fucking sunlight because these are the idiots that run this nation.
They've also, and again, this is it's like we can't do the libertarian, my private corporation shit, where it's like they're doing this this is the biggest wealth transfer to big pharma and big medicine like ever. It's like,
this is the biggest wealth transfer in the history of ever, and it doesn't just include big pharma.
Sure, you could, right.
Amazon, Walmart, Target. Yeah, these motherfuckers
right.
grew exponentially through this.
Yeah, these big, massive institutions, and we as kind of liberty folks, and again, I don't consider myself, I'm not a libertarian, I'm a conservative, but it's like as a conservative, with some other instincts, it's like these big, massive corporate institutions are government. Like, what are you talking about? Do you think Walmart exists without subsidies and without write-offs and without
Walmart doesn't exist without government.
Yeah,
like at least in their current form, they don't.
No, like it's madness, and you're just to kind of circle back, we have this. I'll simplify it, and again, I'm kind of losing steam, to be honest. But like I'll simplify it by saying we have this. We have like all the worst parts of this consumerist culture, and do I want to make a totalitarian argument around like culture and consumerism? Like, no, I don't. But I do want to make a human appeal to the fact that you are far more sovereign and powerful to defend and protect yourself against like not only just like COVID, which is like fucking fake for all intents and purposes, but like you're not just some sick person waiting to die and be rescued by some big government healthcare system. Like the idea that you need to be caterwauling and screaming in the streets that like someone won't save you. It's like really, it is. You truly have the ability to use your body as in my opinion, like the gift from God that it is. Like your body can fight off fucking disease. Like you can get in shape. You can actualize. Yeah. You can like actualize the physical body that you've been gifted. And to suggest that like we're just these waiting vectors for disease that someone can just shove a fucking needle in and like that's what's gonna protect me is like such a nihilist thing that it's like really hard to eat. Like it's even deeper and grosser than like, well, Fauci is just like a bureaucrat who's like lazy. It's like, no. These people fundamentally misdiagnose what like the human condition is. Like it's
the fake TV doctor is trying to tell you how to run your life. That's fucking ridiculous. I don't understand why anyone listens to that moron.
It's wild. And then we've recruited these like mini Stasis who are about mask wearing only as a methodology to be able to communicate that like they hate you and that you are only a vector of disease because if you don't wear a mask, you're only a vector for disease. Like that's what they're communicating, and it's so like sophisticated. Like that type of like mind control that's worked on half the fucking population is like the most diabolical.
It's fucking insane. That these people are that dumb.
Imaginable.
Yeah, I'm literally like fucking baffled most of the time because I'm like, what? Okay, I guess you people are. I mean, what worries me, and I had Martha Bueno on the show earlier tonight.
Oh yeah, sure.
And she was like, she didn't like my plan. Well, it's her second visit because I'm a badass. But I told her that you shouldn't be allowed to vote if you can't pass a test.
I mean, you shouldn't. You want to go like crazy.
She didn't like it. She was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I'm like, I'm just saying these because people that believe nonsense are allowed to vote, and that's fucking scary to me.
You shouldn't be allowed to vote.
This is why democracy's stupid.
It's you shouldn't and if you had to vote, it should be to me, it's married landowners. The only people who
just married, not just landowners in general.
What's that?
Not just landowners, but only married landowners.
Only married landowners. Only because you have to be I don't think you can actually because this is where I get real heterodox. It's like you have to be able to ingratiate, because part of becoming an actualized responsible citizen who has the ability to understand the ramifications of what government policy does, you have to be able to at least participate in some type of voluntary transaction in your life. And marriage is the most applicable to everybody. Like everybody, and again, now gay marriage is fine with. It's actually not fine with me in some perspectives, but it's fine with me from a government to participate in government. It's a-okay with me. So you have to be married and you have to own land. If I really want to,
I'm going to push back there. Government has no fucking bearing in marriage.
Say it again.
Government should have no bearing in marriage.
Oh, sure. Well, that's a separate argument.
Oh, okay.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So here's where I use it. I kind of say it tongue in cheek, obviously. But my point. You're definitely correct. There is no such. Marriage exists as a religious institution for religious purposes and within the context of individualized interpersonal relationships, and the state has no purpose in it. I'm making kind of a tongue-in-cheek remark saying it's really a way for me to say nobody should vote, because voting is ridiculous.
No, because it's fucking retarded. Like,
exactly.
You can't vote away my rights, you piece of shit. Fuck you.
Correct.
And all you wind up with is tyranny of fucking majority. Like, that's what these idiots are doing in the Senate now. They're like, we got to get rid of the filibuster. And I'm like, you don't literally believe in democracy. You people are fucking cunts.
Absolutely.
Shit. I said the word.
Yeah, right. No, it's over. Yeah. These retards are acting like cunts.
Yes, exactly. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, and they're and it has nothing to do with their sexuality, but they're acting like real fags, like the whole thing.
Yes, they are. Yes, 100%. I mean, it's bro, man. I don't even know fucking where we're going. I know it's always darkest before the dawn, and I think we're about to get real fucking dark in the next year or two. So I hope people pay attention. I hope you guys literally pay attention. Don't let people make fun of you for prepping. Just don't.
Yeah, man. Oh, totally. It's not even.
Hoard that shit. Hoard that toilet paper. Hoard that shit. I'm not playing with you. Do it. Like,
be it. No, I totally agree. I mean, and this is how you can't have debt. You have to own land and you have to own things. You have to be food independent, and you have to have a close-knit family and friend network to support you. And that should be the default for actualization for like adults, but at least we kind of have, if I'm going to white pill and spin zone this and say, if you've been ignoring that natural actualization instinct, like, now circumstances are kicking down your fucking door. So get them ready, because that decision is going to be made for you. So I totally agree.
Yes, absolutely. It is going to get made for you. So fucking pay attention. Start making those changes. You can do it. It's not as expensive as you think. It doesn't require nearly as much property as you think. You'd be surprised how much food you can grow in 500 square feet.
Square foot gardening, dude. Fuck yeah.
Like, I mean, especially if you vertical that thing, absolutely, you can really get a lot out of that thing. So pay no attention to these naysayers. You guys get your shit in order for sure. Make sure that you're able to take care of your shit, because shit's gonna get bad, and it's gonna get bad really, really quickly. It's already getting bad. I don't know if you've noticed the lumber prices. I'm sure Danny has at least been able to figure out the gold to lumber, how it went like this. That's bad. So shit's gonna get real. Anyway, we are coming up on an hour. Danny, you finally got your Twitter back. Well, I mean, you had to restart. Why don't you shout that out? It's also in the description so that anyone can like check that out.
Thanks. It's so it's broadcast. It's at broadcast_bull. So the show that I do, if you want to listen to that.
Oh yeah, that too. My bad.
What's that?
Yeah, your show too. Like,
Yeah, no, that's okay. So listen to Austin's show is better. So only listen to my show if you have nothing else to do. But it's Bull Moose.
No, don't listen to him. Just go listen to your show.
It's Bull Moose Broadcast. It is the most heterodox. Again, I make the case that you should only be able to vote if you're married, and if not, then fuck you. So we do heterodox shit like that, and you don't want like normie bullshit takes all the time about everything, then listen to us. And thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it. This is fun. This is always
fun. It was a good time. He fucking hit that thing out on Twitter today. It was like, oh well, yeah, but this was the best interview.
Yes.
Fucking with Reed and shit. So that was funny. I'm going to work on getting you on Reed's show because you're not a libertarian, and Reed's actually pretty good at bringing on guys that are not guys and gals that are not 100%. They're not in that situation. I think you'd be an interesting guest for him to have.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Maybe you can talk about libertarianism and anarchism and Christianity.
Yeah, man.
We'll see. Y'all stay tuned and see if we get Danny on Reed's show. Peace.